right, here is another way to solve a quadratic equation. And once again, no matter what equation you have, no matter how you solve it, you will get the same answer. You can't get different answers. So let's go see what we're going to go with completing the square. All right. Completing the square. If x squared plus bx is a binomial, then adding b over 2 squared, we get a perfect square trinomial. Okay? That might seem like a little ridiculous, but let's go on and see what we come up with a few examples. So if we have x squared plus bx plus the quantity b divided by 2 squared, that is going to be x plus b over 2, the quantity squared. That's like having x squared plus 4x plus 4 is the same thing as x plus 2 squared. So we'll go over this again. Hang in there, folks. All right, so let's what we want to ask ourselves, what term can be added to a perfect square to make a perfect square trinomial? And we have we want to write and factor the trinomial. So let's look at x squared plus 8x. So b in this case is going to be 8. And in order to make a perfect square trinomial, we're going to have to take the 8, divide it by 2, and then square it. And 8 divided by 2 squared is 16, so it would be x squared plus 8x plus 16 would make a perfect square trinomial. And that would factor into x plus 4 times x plus 4, which is x plus 4, the quantity squared. Okay, if we have x squared minus 7x, we're going to take the 7, or the negative 7, and divide it by 2, and square it, which gives us 49 over 4. So our third term in our trinomial is going to be 49 over 4. And please note that it will always be positive, because whether the b is positive or negative, when you square it, it becomes positive. So we have x squared minus 7x plus 49 over 4. And that would be x minus 7 over 2 squared. If we have x squared plus 3/5 x, oh, here we go with our most lovely things that we own in the world are our fractions. We're going to take 3/5 and divide that by 2. And when we do that, remember, that's the same thing as 3/5 times 1/2. So you can just think, okay, I'm going to take that 5 and I'm just going to knock it back down into that second denominator. So, and square that, so it would be 3/10 squared, which is 9/100. So our completing term here will be x squared plus 3/5 x plus 9 over 100. And that's a trinomial, and as a perfect square, it is x plus 3/10, the quantity squared. So go ahead and do your checkpoint number 3 and come back in a few minutes. Okay, so now we want to solve by completing the square. We've just been practicing how to make a perfect square. So now we want to solve by completing the square. So we're going to take x squared minus 6x plus 4 equals 0. And we really can't factor that just, straight on. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we want to get the x squared minus 6x on the left-hand side, and move that 4 over to the other side. So we're going to have x squared minus 6x, leave a little bit of space, and then equals negative 4. Now, the number that we're looking for here is our negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2, and we're going to square that, which is 36 over 4, or you could say 9. So we're going to add 9 to both sides. When we do that, on the left-hand side, we now have our perfect square, which is x minus 3 squared. And on the right, it is equal to 5. Negative 4 plus 9 is 5. So if we now we use our square root property, and we're going to take the square root of both sides, excuse me, and so we'll have x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 5, or x equals 3 plus square root of 5, 3 minus square root of 5. Okay, so now go do your checkpoint number 4 and come back. And we're going to move on now. So we want to solve this. 9x squared minus 6x minus 4 equals 0. We're going to isolate our 9x squared minus 6x, our binomial, in x. We're going to move the negative 4 over to the other side. So we'll have 9x squared minus 6x equals 4. The problem is, when you're completing the square, your x squared term has to have a coefficient of 1. We have a coefficient of 9, so we have to divide everything by 9. So we'll have x squared minus 6 over 9x equals 4 over 9. Now I am going to reduce this immediately to minus 2/3, and there's a reason for it. In the end, it will save you some time figuring out, what common denominators are. So I'm going to take my minus 6 over 9, which is minus 2 over 3, and I divide that by 2, and then square it, and I get minus 1/3 squared. And if you forgot how to do that, it's minus 2/3 over 2. Drop the 3 down to the 2, and you have 2/6, which is the same thing as 1/3. So it's going to be 2 over 3 times 1 over 2, which is negative 1 over 3, and negative 1 over 3 is 1/9. So we're going to have x squared minus 2/3 x plus 1 over 9 equals, on the right hand side we have 4 over 9, and we have to add 1 over 9 to that, because you have to do the same thing. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the second side of the equation. Excuse me. And so we're going to have x minus 1/3 squared equals 4/9 plus 1/9, which is 5/9. Now if we take the square root of each side, we will have x minus 1/3 equals plus or minus square root of 5 over 3. Because the square root of 5 over 9 is the same thing as square root of 5 or square root of 9. So we have square root of 5 over 3. And now if we add 1/3 to both sides, we have 1/3 plus square root of 5 over 3. 1/3, that should be, which is the same thing as 1 plus square root of 5 over 3 if we just collect terms. Or 1 minus square root of 5 over 3. So go ahead and do your checkpoint number 5. And there's our baby. We're done. See you in class, folks. Bye.